So today was the iPhone 15 event, and even though there were no crazy new design announcements, there were a lot of little features that I think people are gonna love. You can double tap your finger to answer or hang up a phone call when wearing the new Apple Watch. USB-C is finally official. I know a lot of people in the Apple world will appreciate that. And there's a lot of cool camera features. Now I wanna start with the Apple Watch Series 9. It's not getting a design change, but what it is getting is a brand new processor. We've been using the S6 SIP for quite some time, but this new S9 SIP that's specific to the Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2 is unlocking a bunch of new little features we've never had before. Not only is it going to add more transistors, it's going to be 30% faster GPU performance, animations are going to feel a lot more fluid. But one of the biggest updates is the ability to use Siri directly on your watch without being tethered to your phone or having a cellular plan. Like, have you ever been on a run with your Apple Watch Wi-Fi model and tried to ask Siri to increase the volume? It won't work unless you're connected to the internet. Well, that's never going to happen again with the Series 9 watch. On top of that, Siri is going to get better dictation, 25% better dictation compared to previous models. So if you're dictating a text message or some sort of note, it's going to be a lot more accurate compared to before. The other hardware update to the Series 9 is the ultra wideband chip. It's now in its second generation. It's going to offer slightly more features. For example, if you ever wanted to find your watch, you could use your phone and ping it and your watch would make a noise, and vice versa. Well, with UWB second gen, not only can you do that, but your phone will direct you to the meter to find where your watch is located. Kind of very similar to AirTags. Plus, it's going to also unlock other features with other Apple devices. So for example, if you come home and your HomePod detects that your Apple Watch is in range, it might offer some suggestions like a playlist. But the display is also getting much brighter. The previous Series 8 had a peak brightness of 1000 nits. This new Apple Watch Series 9 can go up to 2000. So if you're outdoors and you found the previous version to be hard to see in sunlight, which I never did, this one should make it a little bit easier. But the biggest announcement was the gestures. You can now double tap your fingers to perform an action on your Apple Watch. If someone calls you, double tap, answers the call, double tap, hangs up the call. You can double tap to take a photo or even bring up cards. Now you could argue that this is not that big of a deal because you could just use your other hand, but it's just so much easier to do this, which is a feature they introduced with the Vision Pro, than actually finding the little icon on your tiny little display. Plus, if your hands are full, it's kind of convenient. Unfortunately, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 was probably the least exciting announcement. They're really not changing much. Yes, it's getting the brand new S9 SIP like the Series 9. It's going to have precision finding and the double tap feature and all that stuff, but the only hardware update it's actually getting is a brighter display. They're taking up the peak brightness from 2000 to 3000 nits. Battery life is going to be identical, so you're not going to see an improvement there, but they are introducing a brand new watch face called the Modular Ultra, and this is going to be able to just cram in a lot more information at a glance compared to any other watch face they've put on this device. Now, before I jump into the iPhone 15, Apple did a whole thing on their environmental impact. I'm not gonna go through all of it because a lot of it is just marketing, but the one thing that stood out for me is no more leather iPhone cases. I'm glad they're doing this. We don't need them anymore. One, they're more expensive. Two, they're not good for the environment. And three, silicone cases are cheaper and protect your iPhone better. But the iPhone 15 itself is exactly what you'd expect. It's identical to the look of the iPhone 14. Even the camera placement is the same. The dimensions are the same, and the Plus and Normal still offer the exact same screen size. What is different though is the notch. You're no longer using this one, and you're finally getting the notch that was on the 14 Pro, which means iPhone 15 users will now have dynamic island. Whether you like this or not, it still makes something that's not visually appealing more functional and practical to use compared to before. Now look, it's still a 60 Hz display. I'm not a fan of that, but I feel like most normal people don't care. But if you do, you have to go with the Pro or buy an actual different product. They did improve the display. They're using the same one that's on the 14 Pro model, which means you get 1000 nits of typical brightness, 1600 nits of peak HDR, and then around 2000 nits of peak SDR. So outdoor use will be a little bit better than before. The camera sensor is no longer 12 megapixels. They're using the exact same 48 megapixel camera from the 14 Pro. And because they're using that, they can crop into it and give you a telephoto lens. So you're gonna get 2 times zoom. Now this is not using a third lens or anything, it's just cropping in to the 48 megapixel sensor, which should give you very clear results. The ultra wide lens is identical to the 14 Pro, it's still 12 megapixels, so nothing is different there, but they did include some new software improvements. There's a new focus and depth control feature for taking portrait shots, and it's pretty cool because if you take a picture of someone or 2 subjects, and let's say one person's behind you, and you have the first person in focus, you can tap on the person behind you and put them in focus instead and put the first person all blurry. So that's kind of cool. But one of the coolest software features is better voice quality. This is something we use a lot, and just having a clear voice and algorithms that do a better job of blocking out background noise, especially when you're in a very loud environment, I think a lot of people are going to appreciate, and it's something that I'm going to test out right away. Now there is a new roadside assistance feature. If you don't have cell service, you can use their satellites to ping for help. There's a partnership with AAA. But yeah, USB-C, finally there. Not fast USB-C, it's only 2.0, so the transfer speeds are not going to be that great, but it does allow you to reverse charge your other devices if you connect a Type-C to Lightning cable, so you can charge your AirPods, for example. Now, out of all the iPhone announcements, the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max are obviously the most interesting. It's still the same size at 6.1 and 6.7 inches, but the overall width should be a tiny bit smaller since they reduced the size of the bezels. But the biggest change comes down to the materials they're using. It's no longer stainless steel, and I'm happy about this. Everyone says stainless steel is more premium. I disagree. I'd rather have a lighter phone. And the fact that they're now using titanium instead of stainless steel, it's maintaining that same durability, but it's gonna be a bit lighter. Instead of being, I think, around 240 grams, it's being reduced to 221. Not a big deal for the regular 15 Pro, but if you hold the 15 Pro Max and then let's say the 14 Pro beside each other, you will feel a difference, especially if you're using these devices every single day. The internals got an update. It's now using the A17 Pro, and this will give you a glimpse of what the M3 is gonna look like in the MacBooks coming out in the future. This is a CPU that still has 2 performance cores, 4 high efficiency cores, but is faster. Like gaming, everything is going to be much faster on this device, and they showed some crazy examples on the iPhone, like Resident Evil coming over. There's going to be Assassin's Creed Mirage coming over down the road next year, and it looks really good. Like, it's obviously nowhere as capable as a desktop PC, but it's getting closer and closer every single year. And I think maybe 15, 20 years down the road, all we might be using is our phone to play actual games connected to a bigger screen. Now, the neural engine is obviously faster. It can process more operations per second. They did change the button on the side of the phone. The mute switch is no longer there. It's been removed, and it's now been replaced with an action button. Now, that action button can still be used to mute your device, but there'll be a lot more other options you can choose from. Maybe if you want to use a flashlight or take a photo instead, or you can even create your own shortcut and bind it to that action button instead. Now, if you're a pro, you're going to appreciate the pro features. The USB port, for example, is faster than the USB Type-C port on the regular iPhone 15. It's going to support USB 3, which has transfer speeds of 10 gigabits per second. This is not quite Thunderbolt, but it's a lot faster than the USB Type-C port they're using on the regular iPhone 15. If you're taking pictures, that's where the Pro really stands out, because the 48 megapixel camera has been improved. You have a lower aperture. It has the ability to take in more light. It should provide better photos during the nighttime, but also sharper photos because of their computational photography. But the big thing this year is the fact that it got a 5 times optical lens. You can now zoom in up to 5 times, and they're introducing the ability to switch between different focal lengths. They're saying there's 7 different cameras inside of the phone. That's a little bit of a stretch, but you can switch it between 7 different focal lengths. And if you tap the 1 times button on the wide lens, you can go between 22 or 24, 35. So you can easily line up those shots more consistently than zooming in and out. Just like the zoom lens, the ultra wide lens is still 12 megapixels, but apparently they've improved it, so low light photography should look better. But I think the most exciting thing in terms of hardware is the optical image stabilization they're using. The gimbal feature or function can move in 3 different directions, so theoretically it should produce smoother looking video. And I think that was the biggest focus point on this one, was video. You know, like we could always shoot ProRes, but now you can shoot ProRes 4K 60 to an external drive. That's right, you can use a USB Type-C cable, attach it to external storage, and record directly on the storage because of that faster USB Type-C port. Of course, it does have log encoding, there's the new ASUS certification, and you can now record spatial video. Not a big deal right now, but if the Vision Pro ever takes off, being able to use spatial video, which is just 3D video, could be handy because then you could upload it and then play it on your Vision Pro and get a more depth to your video rather than looking at more of a 2D image. So not really important right now, but if the Vision Pro ever comes down in price and more people buy it and use it in their lives, could be quite a handy feature. Now look, there's a lot more to this, and I will be reviewing the iPhone 15, 15 Pro, Apple Watch, both of them, maybe even the AirPods just to check out USB Type-C. So if you're interested in seeing that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.